Black rain is falling on Tehran. And this is not a metaphor, it is literal. Black rain oil, soaked clouds descending on a city of 9 million people. Wave after wave of American and Israeli strikes turned Iran's oil depots into infernos so massive that the smoke has physically blotted out the sun. Sewage lines are burning underground and fire is moving through the streets, like rivers finding their own path downhill. And in Washington, the man who ordered all of this picked up the phone, called ABC News, and said, "I am not worried about anything at all." That is exactly where we are right now, with the President of the United States having launched a war that shut down the Strait of Hormuz in a way never seen in modern history and sent global energy markets into free fall. American soldiers whose names were read aloud on national television this weekend are dead, and retaliatory strikes have reached from Tehran to Tel Aviv to Bahrain to Kuwait. And his description for all of that, delivered live on a national network, was this: "It is a little glitch. We had to take this detour." A detour that is the word the commander-in-chief chose for a conflict that has engulfed the entire Middle East and produced images that look like something out of the Book of Revelation. It is the same word he used while Iran's foreign minister was sitting on American television this morning, saying with complete composure, "No, we are not interested in your ceasefire. Not this time." In the next few minutes, I'm going to show you exactly how this spiraled to where it is today. The 3 moments from this weekend that tell you everything about where this is headed, and why the world you woke up in this morning is fundamentally more dangerous than the one you went to sleep in just 1 week ago. Think about it this way. If someone picked a fight with you, beat you down, then offered you a handshake, and the moment you took it, they hit you again, how many times would you accept the handshake before you stopped reaching out your hand? Drop your answer in the comments, because that is exactly the calculation Iran just made on live American television, and it changes everything. Let us rewind the clock, because the speed of this conflict has buried the actual sequence of events that matter most right now. The United States and Israel began by striking Iran's military targets, then moved to oil infrastructure, and then, according to independent investigations by Reuters, CNN, and the New York Times, struck an elementary school in southern Iran that killed over 170 people, including dozens of children. Iran accepted a ceasefire the first time around, exercised restraint, and when the aggression stopped, it stopped too. But then the strikes started again, more hospitals, more refineries, more freshwater desalination plants, the infrastructure that literally keeps 90 million people alive. And this time Iran looked at the full pattern, looked at what followed the last ceasefire. It accepted in good faith and made a different decision. This time, Iran said no. That single word is now reshaping the entire conflict, because Washington's playbook was built on the assumption that Iran would eventually fold under sustained pressure. Instead, Iran is hitting back with ballistic missiles. Shahid drones and cluster munitions landing in Tel Aviv and surrounding cities, and the United States, for all the firepower it has deployed, has no visible exit strategy from any of this. So let me walk you through the 3 receipts from this weekend that show you exactly how out of control this situation has become. 3 moments, 3 windows, into a machine that is running without any brakes. Receipt number 1, the ABC interview. Donald Trump called ABC News anchor Mary Bruce over the weekend and sat for what should have been a basic accountability interview for a wartime president. She asked him the most straightforward questions any leader in his position should be prepared to answer. Is he worried about the risk to Americans at home? Is he worried about terrorist retaliation from Iran? Is he worried about the economic fallout hitting ordinary American families right now? His answer, quoted directly from the broadcast, was this: "I am not worried about anything at all. I think it is fine. It is a little glitch." We had to take this detour. A detour that is the word the commander-in-chief chose for a conflict where American soldiers have already come home in flag-draped coffins, and the Middle East is burning from one end to the other. The Strait of Hormuz, through which roughly 20% of the world's daily oil supply moves, has gone dark for the first time in 80 years. Then, in the same call, he said, everything is on the table, including ground forces and special operations teams being sent into Iran to locate enriched uranium. And then came perhaps the most revealing line of the entire interview, that if Iran chooses its next supreme leader without consulting him personally, quote, the new one will not last long. He wants to personally approve the supreme leader of a sovereign nation of 90 million people. That is not a military strategy. That is delusion dressed up as confidence. Receipt number 2, the Lindsey Graham doctrine. Trump sent Senator Lindsey Graham onto the Sunday morning shows, and what followed is one of the most disturbing pieces of political television produced during this entire conflict. Graham appeared wearing 2 hats, one reading Free Cuba and another reading Make Iran Great, and delivered what can only be described as a wartime infomercial for the next several wars, before this one is anywhere close to finished. His exact words: "We are marching through the world, we are cleaning out the bad guys, Iran is going down and Cuba is next," Let that land for a moment. A sitting United States senator on national television during an active war that has already killed American service members is publicly pitching the next war on a morning talk show. He called Trump the greatest commander-in-chief of all time, promised, just wait and see what comes in the next 2 weeks, and then turned to America's Arab allies countries whose hospitals and water systems are being shredded in this crossfire and told them that if they want a treaty with the United States, they need to get into this fight. That is not diplomacy. That is extortion delivered with branded merchandise. And the fact that Graham's method of selling Trump on expanding this war involved handing him custom hats tells you everything about who is actually driving strategic decisions here, and the honest answer is that nobody coherent is. Receipt number 3, the Fox News cover-up. This one is quieter than the first two and received far less attention, but it may be the most telling moment of the entire weekend. During the dignified transfer at Dover Air Force Base, where the remains of 6 American service members came home, President Trump attended wearing his $55 campaign hat. The same one he is currently selling on his official merchandise website at a military funeral for soldiers who died in a war he described as a detour. Fox News aired the ceremony live, except they did not air the actual ceremony. They broadcast footage from a previous dignified transfer during Trump's first-term footage where he was not wearing the campaign hat, and when they were caught, they issued an on-air correction calling it an inadvertent error. But the question worth sitting with is simple. When has Fox News ever accidentally made the president look more dignified than he actually appeared? The names of those 6 Americans deserve to be spoken without a campaign hat in the frame Captain Cody Cork, Sergeant First Class Nicole Moore, Sergeant First Class Noah Tenz, Sergeant Declan Cody, Major Jeffrey O'Brien, Chief Warrant Officer 3 Robert Marsison. Every single one of them a person who chose to serve, not one of them a prop for anyone's political presentation. If this reporting is connecting dots you have not seen assembled anywhere else, subscribe right now, because this conflict is moving faster than any single outlet can track, and I am going to keep breaking it down every single day. Now, here's the part most people watching American coverage are missing entirely. While Trump and Graham were projecting invincibility on television, Iran's foreign minister went on Meet the Press and delivered something the White House clearly had not prepared for: calm, precise, strategic defiance from a government that has studied the pattern and made its decision accordingly. Most countries facing the full weight of American military power scramble to find a negotiated exit. Iran did the opposite. The foreign minister laid out the logic clearly last time you attacked us. We accepted the ceasefire in good faith. You used that pause to rearm and attack us again. You bombed our schools, our hospitals, and our water supply. So no, we are not accepting another ceasefire, because we have seen exactly what a ceasefire on your terms produces. There needs to be a permanent end to the war, and until that is on the table, we will keep fighting. That is not bluster for a domestic audience. That is a negotiating position built entirely on the documented record of what happened the last time Iran showed restraint. While Trump tells Americans he is not worried about anything, Iran is telling the world it has made a deliberate decision to drag this conflict out and make it expensive enough that the pressure eventually shifts back onto Washington. The evidence that this strategy is already working is not hard to find. The Strait of Hormuz, through which roughly 20% of the world's oil moves every day, is effectively shut down, with Kuwait's petroleum chief confirming tanker traffic has dropped to practically zero for the first time in 80 years. Iraqi oil output has plunged by 60% compared to pre-conflict levels. Qatar has shut down liquefied natural gas production, removing a critical supply source from already tight global markets. Iran struck Kuwait's social security building, sending a clear message about the geographic reach of its targeting. Iran hit Bahrain's desalination plants in direct retaliation for what was done to Iran's own water infrastructure. And the UAE, despite senior Israeli officials claiming Abu Dhabi was helping strike Iran, issued a furious public denial calling those statements damaging to the relationship, a diplomatic rupture between nominal allies that reveals exactly how much strain the American-led coalition is carrying beneath the surface. You do not defeat a superpower by matching its firepower. You make the war expensive enough and prolonged enough that the superpower's own citizens start asking the question their government does not want, asked, why are we doing this, and what does victory actually look like? So what does this mean for you personally? If you fill up your car, you're going to feel this. If you buy groceries, you are going to feel this. If you have a retirement account or any savings connected to financial markets, you're going to feel this. Analysts are projecting that food, energy, airlines, transport, and insurance costs will take significant hits from the supply disruptions already in motion, potentially pushing consumer price inflation above 4% by April or May. And once global companies restructure their logistics around new shipping lanes and energy sources, those changes do not simply reverse when a ceasefire gets signed. The economic damage embeds itself into new patterns. The jobs follow the new trade routes. and they do not come back to the old ones just because the guns go quiet. So where does this go from here? There are 3 realistic paths, and none of them are clean. Scenario 1, a managed off-ramp. Back-channel pressure from Gulf states, European allies, and American business interests forces a genuine ceasefire, not another pause used as a reloading opportunity. Both sides claim victory for their domestic audiences. The Strait reopens, markets stabilize, and the world exhales. But the structural damage to regional trust in American security guarantees remains, because the Gulf states that watched their infrastructure burn during a conflict they were supposed to be protected from will not view the American security architecture the same way again. The off-ramp exists. The road behind it is already permanently altered. Scenario 2, regional realignment. The country is watching all of this, the UAE furious denial, Kuwait's economy absorbing shocks it did not cause, Bahrain's water supply targeted for hosting American forces, begin making their own quiet calculations about where their long-term interests actually sit. They start building deeper ties with China, with India, with any major power not currently bombing their neighbors. A new regional network forms, not explicitly anti-American, but no longer reflexively aligned with Washington, the way Gulf diplomacy assumed for decades. Once that monopoly on strategic loyalty fractures under this kind of pressure, history suggests it does not reassemble in the same form. Scenario 3, full escalation. This is the scenario nobody wants to name out loud, but Lindsey Graham already named it on national television, ground forces, special operations inside Iran. A genuine attempt at regime change in a nation of 90 million people with hardened military infrastructure, 31 active command structures that have survived months of sustained strikes, and a population that has spent 45 years preparing for exactly this confrontation. Cuba gets added to the list. The marching through the world doctrine moves from a senator's television appearance into actual operational policy. Allies are forced to pick sides, the global economy fragments, and the war the president called a little glitch becomes the defining catastrophe of an entire generation. Here is what can be said with certainty regardless of which scenario plays out. Whatever comes next, the architecture that held the Middle East together for several decades is not going back to what it was before this conflict started. Even if Trump reversed course tomorrow, the lesson has already been absorbed by Iran, by the Gulf states, by every mid-sized power watching and updating its calculations in real time. The lesson is simple. Never build your entire security strategy around a single partner, because that partner might one day be led by someone who calls a regional war a detour, wears a campaign hat to a military funeral, and wants to personally approve the leadership of sovereign nations. Iran's foreign minister told the world on American television that Iran has no intention of ending this conflict on Washington's terms. Trump did not build an exit strategy, he built a merchandise line. And Lindsey Graham did not present a military doctrine on those Sunday shows, he presented a global tour of destruction with a gift shop attached to it. So I will leave you with this. Did Trump break the Middle East, or did the Middle East simply stop pretending the old arrangement still worked? Is Iran's refusal to accept another ceasefire strategic patience built on hard-earned pattern recognition, or a dangerous gamble that could consume the entire region? And when a United States senator says on national television, "We are marching through the world," does anyone in Washington actually have a map showing where that march ends? Drop your answers in the comments. I read every single one. Subscribe, because the next chapter of this story, whether it is the Hormuz standoff, the ground forces decision, the Gulf realignment, or the inflation shock about to hit your grocery bill, is coming fast. This story is not slowing down. Do not look away. This content is commentary and analysis for informational purposes only. It does not constitute financial, legal, or geopolitical advice. Consult qualified experts before making any decisions based on the events discussed.